You ever feel like you don't deserve all the success you've accomplished, that you don't get credit or don't deserve credit for all the things that you've done? You're not alone. Listen to this podcast.
Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson.
I want to talk about imposter syndrome. It's a psychological condition which I have suffered from myself many times and very often, but I've learned how to cope with it. And I'm going to share a few of those thoughts with you. Now, what's imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is when you begin to doubt your own skills, your talents, your accomplishments. You feel that maybe people are going to find out that you're actually a fraud and you don't know what you're doing. Imposter syndrome is feeling like you don't belong, that other people deserve to be there and you don't. You know what? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I found myself in many situations through my life and career where I felt like I was out of my league. Back when I was a freelance technician, helping managing a startup company, and certainly as a consultant, as I got out into the world, I met other consultants who seemed to be infinitely more successful than I could ever hope to be. But the fact of the matter is, if you strip away all the little lies that people tell when they're bragging about their business at the bar, most of us are pretty much the same. So imposter syndrome is a mindset, and it permeates our lives. It kind of keeps us from doing things that we know would be right to do. It sucks up bandwidth. It's unnecessary noise, and it brings us down, right? It makes us feel like we can't do better than what we're doing. And it keeps us from acknowledging how well that we've done, rewarding ourselves. That little dopamine hit you get when you pull something off or your idea works. Imposter syndrome is there to suck that away and take it away from you. And it's not fair, and it's not worthy of you. Imposter syndrome is, by definition, not something that is justified. It's just something that you have rationalized. The fact is, you're running a business, you're achieving some level of success. Other people may be achieving success differently. That doesn't make you less successful. And that's hard sometimes to remember. This came up, I deal with companies of all sizes. And back, before the pandemic, in the before times, obviously, I worked with a lot of very large companies. I did a lot of change management work, huge numbers of employees. I mean, we were shifting big things. It was fun moving large parts and affecting so many people. But in this last bit of my career, in the last 2 years I'm going to do this, I really found my niche and my satisfaction dealing with the owner-operator, those solo entrepreneurs, the smaller companies, because one, they have so much to offer, they're doing some great things, and they're easier to change. I use the phrase pushing sand up a hill a lot. Pushing sand up a hill is something that no matter how hard you try, you never quite get there. Sometimes working with large companies is like pushing sand up a hill. Working with smaller companies is a lot easier because change is easier to manifest. There's fewer moving parts. There's less resistance to overcome. The power of lethargy in large organizations is huge. It's very, very powerful. Even if you're working with an owner who really wants change, getting 150 employees to change is difficult. It's like turning a battleship. So imposter syndrome, I see a lot in owners of small businesses, and everybody's idea of small is different, right? You may thinking, small business, somebody who's under $100 million, and another of you saying small business under $1 million. It's all relative, and that's the point. Small business owners very often see the types of events and projects that other companies are working on. I go, oh man, I'm small time. I'm not worthy here. And I wanted to try and alleviate some of that concern because that keeps you from doing the things that you need to do because you feel like you're not worthy of it. So success isn't the number of employees you have. It isn't the size of your building. It's not how much equipment you own. It's not even the size of the jobs that you work on. Success is something else entirely. Right? I worked at a owner one time many years ago who was one of those companies. It was going to be pushing sand up a hill. It was very hard to get him to engage in the things that were going to make a difference. Instead, he was really hyper-focused on, and he had a lovely office, but he was hyper-focused on building or having a fancy office. He wanted something that, I think he wanted a castle. I mean, honestly, I think if they're going to draw for it, you have moat and guards standing there and footmen, he would have been happy. He wanted something that reflected success outwardly in a way that other people would perceive him as successful. And the problem was he didn't perceive himself as successful. And so he wasn't going to settle for, making more money, having a great retirement set up, having time to travel and do the other things he valued. What he really wanted was other people to see him as successful. And that was his way of trying to work through his own imposter syndrome. And this was going to be self-destructive. This is not where he needed to be putting his time and energy. And it wasn't really going to accomplish that because he was going to build this building and basically wasn't going to be able to afford to do the business that he wanted to do. So long story short, I don't think that he ever got that building built. I think he found other ways to self-medicate his esteem issues and all of this. But you're not alone if you're suffering from this imposter syndrome where you feel like you haven't accomplished the things that you've actually done. So let's talk about how do we overcome this mindset. And this is a mindset, right? There's not truth built in here. There are things that we have convinced ourselves of. And that's really what a mindset's all about. And I spend a lot of time in my practice helping people overcome mindsets. Mindsets that, we have to own the equipment because if we sub-rent, we don't make as much money. Mindsets that, only employees are going to take care of your show, that we can't trust freelancers, things like that. These are all mindsets. They're not based on facts. They're based on feelings and emotions, which means they're really hard to untangle sometimes. So imposter syndrome is difficult to untangle. I will tell you from my experience, the thing that has worked the best for me in overcoming imposter syndrome is when you realize that the true imposters are the companies that have too many employees. They have this giant building they don't need. They have lots of inventory they've invested in that's not busy. They're doing enormous shows and they don't make any money. They really don't make significant money. They may make enough money for the owner to have a lifestyle, but that is not true success. They don't make the money they should be making for the size of organization that they are. And in fact, part of what they had to do to live the lifestyle that made them feel successful was to grow a company that wasn't profitable. This happens more often than you think. With very few examples, when people cite to me, well, I like this company, I want to be like them, I go, no, you don't want to be like them. They have this perception that somebody else is more successful than they are, but they don't know what the reality is that that's not really a successful company. What do you see that makes them look successful to you? And how can we focus on that and see that you already have your version of that in your company? Or maybe you do need some help in those areas, which is great. It's nice to be self-aware. And if imposter syndrome can lead to self-awareness, that's great. But mostly imposter syndrome gets in the way. So here's a question I ask people who think that other bigger companies are more successful than they are. Which would you rather own? If you got a chance to buy any company in the world, would you buy a company that's doing $20 million a year in business and only making $1 million? Or Or would you buy a company that's doing $5 million a year in business and only making $1 million? Well, wait a minute, a $20 million company has a lot of potential. Maybe we can increase profit if we add $5 million worth of business. You would make $1.25 million. Okay, unless you can fundamentally change that company. And it's very difficult to change a $20 million company from one that's making a couple percent profit to one that's making 20% profit. However, that $5 million company that's making $1 million in profit, if we added $5 million of business with that company, it's now making $2 million worth of profit. In fact, if it's scalable, it's probably making even more than that. So size is not what's important. It's what do you do with it? Okay. Are you using your resources to their fullest potential? Maybe not. Are you using it better than other people? You probably are. Just the fact that you've listened to this and you're thinking about this says you're probably somebody who thinks about your business and you make thoughtful decisions about it, which is a really good indicator that you are poised for success, but maybe imposter syndrome is keeping you from getting there. So my response to all of this is, number one, we have to learn how to be successful on our own terms. One of the things that I had to understand was that I define what success is. One, do I enjoy what I'm doing? Am I putting groceries on the table? Am I funding my retirement? If I can do those three things, that is what success means to me. Someone else may have a different definition of success, and they may judge me for my lack of success based on what they think they need. I know some people have done pretty well in their lives, and they're making tons of money, and they have tons of, huge retirements, and they never need to work again in their lives, but they're still not happy and they're still not satisfied. So what does it take for you to be happy? Okay. That's a piece of success that you need to hold on to, because if somebody else's success is making you unhappy, that says more about you than it does about them. So figure out what makes you happy. Are you meeting that criteria? Can you put some more energy and some elements of that to improve on it? The second thing I want you to think about if you're suffering from imposter syndrome is you don't need to please everyone. You don't need to please me. You don't need to please your competitor. You don't need to please everybody who might buy from you. You need to make the right people happy. You need to make your family happy. You need to make yourself happy. You need to make your best customers happy, because these are things that you have more control over. So you can't please everyone. No one's going to please everyone. You're not going to be the right choice for everybody. And the sooner you understand that, maybe you guide them to the right choice. And that's something you could feel good about. Okay. That's going to help you overcome this imposter syndrome. Are you doing the right thing? Are you letting altruism be part of your model? Are you helping people that need help? Is that important to you? Great. That's what I consider a successful person. And then the third thing in all of this, and you've heard this phrase before, living well is the best revenge. I'm not saying use your lifestyle as a weapon. Use your lifestyle to remind yourself what it takes for you to be happy. And, sure, could you have a bigger house? Yeah. Do you need one? Maybe not. Is the house, I live in a house that's nicer than any house I ever thought I would live in. I should be very happy with that. Would I like a fancier house? Maybe. I'd probably like a smaller one, to be honest with you. But my point is, I'm living better than I ever thought I could. There are other people who think I should be doing better than that. That's not their business. That's my business, right? So living well, think of the things that you've done. This industry brings us a lot of opportunity. I've had a chance, just from my career doing shows, traveling to many wonderful places, staying in fine hotels, seeing wonderful sights, doing a lot of cool stuff as a consultant. I've had the chance really to travel all over the world. So there's a lot of things that our chosen careers have provided for us that other people never get a chance to do. And that's something that we need to celebrate and enjoy. So we have some of the best stories of anybody you're going to sit around and talk with about their business. And our problems are interesting. They're not always fun, but it's amazing what we pulled off. So, little pep talk. Okay. Recognize imposter syndrome. Recognize when you're suffering from it. Quit worrying about the job that you're not going to win because you were not good enough. Find the people who appreciate what you do. Find the people that you want to do business with. Don't fret about what other people are doing. I think you'll find your skills are just fine. Can we improve them? Yeah. Your talents are innate. You're the envy of many people. And you've done some pretty amazing things, and you need to remind yourself to pat yourself on the back for that every once in a while. And no, you're not a fraud. You know what it is you don't know how to do, and you will admit that. Okay? You're giving people your best advice, and you're never going to be a fraud when you're doing that. That's a genuine, helpful response. So give yourself a lot more credit than you're doing. And if you need help with your business, making it all it can be, now that you're out of that imposter mindset, then that's something we could talk about as well. But if imposter mindset is keeping you from doing things, please take the time to work on yourself and appreciate all you've got done. Man, I hope you have a great week, and I hope I see you soon. Thanks for listening.
If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.